The story of Sheila Davalloo begins in the kind of places people move to because they feel safe. Places where kids ride bikes down quiet streets in the summer while parents talk with neighbors in driveways before dinner. Where neighbors recognize each other at grocery stores and farmers markets line the streets on weekends. The kind of towns where nobody imagines a murderer could be hiding in plain sight. And that's exactly what makes this story so unsettling. Because for years, Sheila Davalloo blended perfectly into the rhythm of suburban life in Westchester County. What's up, guys? Welcome to Crime Snob podcast, where every Monday we dive into some of the most twisted local true crime stories. My name is Sandra Goriello.
And I'm Alice.
And if you are a self-proclaimed crime snob like us, then you are in the right place. Today I have a case so bizarre it almost seems like a plot twist out of a movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was real life. And the nightmare that unfolded between Westchester County and Stamford, Connecticut would leave multiple families forever changed. This is the story of Sheila Davalloo. Sheila Davalloo was just another young girl growing up in Yorktown Heights, New York. Her family had immigrated to the United States after fleeing the violence and instability of the Iranian Revolution in the late 1970s, and like so many immigrant families, they came here searching for peace, stability, and opportunity. Eventually, they settled into northern Westchester, building a new life in one of the county's quiet suburban neighborhoods. If you know Yorktown, you know exactly the kind of atmosphere it has. On full mornings, the Taconic fills with commuters heading south after stopping at Primal Bowls or Liberty for a coffee, teenagers hanging out at the JV Mall after school, families stop at places like Uncle Giuseppe's before heading home for the night, and at night, the town feels sleepy and calm, and summer nights at King Cone become core memories for little ones. It's the kind of place where people assume they know their neighbors. And growing up there, Sheila appeared to be exactly the kind of daughter any family would be proud of. She was intelligent, focused, ambitious. Her parents both worked in healthcare, and academics were taken very seriously inside the household. Sheila excelled in school and eventually enrolled at Stony Brook University, where she studied biochemistry.
Wow, smarty.
To everyone around her, she appeared polished and driven, the type of person whose future seemed completely secure. But beneath the surface, another side of Sheila was slowly developing. A side obsessed with control. Oh. Not just over her own life, but over how other people perceived her. Okay. According to Murder Media, while still young, Sheila married a man named Farid Mousavi. And for a while, her life appeared to follow the exact path her family hoped for. Marriage, education, career success, stability. Eventually, she continued her studies at New York Medical College, and that's where she met a fellow student named Paul Christos during a small study group. What started between them was secretive at first. Late conversations after class, shared moments between studying, an affair slowly unfolding behind closed doors.
Juicy.
And like many affairs, the secrecy itself probably intensified the emotions. Relationships hidden from the world often feel more passionate because they exist outside of reality. Everything feels heightened, forbidden, more exciting than ordinary life. Eventually, Sheila's husband discovered the relationship, and ultimately their marriage ended. And despite the scandal surrounding how they got together, Sheila and Paul stayed together. By 1998, the couple got engaged, and on May 28, 2000, they tied the knot in a small ceremony with about 70 friends and family in attendance, which I say small loosely because 70 friends and family is pretty...
It's a good amount
of people.
Yeah.
In 2001, the couple moved into a condo in Pleasantville that Sheila's parents allegedly had purchased for them.
Nice.
And if you know Pleasantville, you know how picturesque it feels.
Totally.
Paul worked for Cornell University in Manhattan, commuting into the city, while Sheila worked as a research scientist for Purdue Pharma in Stamford, Connecticut, which at the time was one of the most successful pharmaceutical companies in the United States. From the outside, they looked like the perfect suburban professional couple.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But according to Sheila later on, the excitement between them faded quickly. The passion that once came from secrecy and stolen moments slowly disappeared beneath ordinary domestic life. Between bills, work schedules, and routine, the affair that once felt thrilling eventually became a marriage that felt ordinary.
Okay.
And for Sheila, ordinary never seemed to be enough. In the summer of 2001, Sheila attended a happy hour gathering after work in Stamford. That's where she met a man named Nelson Sessler. The two quickly became involved romantically.
Oh my God.
And the only problem was that Nelson had absolutely no idea that Sheila was married. So, and the lengths Sheila went to maintain the lie honestly felt unbelievable. Apparently, whenever Nelson planned to come over, Sheila would tell Paul that her mentally ill brother was visiting and couldn't know that she was married because it would upset him, which I do think that she did have a brother that was on the spectrum to some degree.
Okay.
I don't know how truthful that part is, though.
That is such a lie.
Yeah, and so apparently he didn't even know that she had gotten married. Like, the family kept it from him so that way he wouldn't be upset by it,
Okay,
which
fine.
I can kind of see how...
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so, but I think she was kind of using a little bit of the truth and spinning it to her advantage, if that makes sense.
It does sound outrageous. So, yeah.
So, and somehow, Paul believed her.
Yeah, I love it.
He actually helped remove evidence of his own existence from the house, including photographs, clothes, and toiletries. Anything suggesting another man lived there. Then he'd leave for the night while Sheila transformed the home into an entirely different reality for Nelson. That's one of the most disturbing parts of this case, because Sheila wasn't simply lying occasionally, she was managing entirely separate identities at the same time.
That's so much work.
A lot of work.
But that's the part she probably liked.
I was going to say,
that's why people do that stuff.
It kept it exciting
the
for
thrill,
her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Creating different worlds for different people and controlling exactly what each person was allowed to see. And for years, it worked. But eventually, the situation became even more complicated. Because while Nelson was involved with Sheila, he was also falling in love with another coworker, a woman named Anna Lisa Raymundo. And unlike Sheila's relationship with Nelson, this relationship eventually went public and exclusive, and ultimately Nelson chose Anna Lisa, eventually moving into her apartment in Stamford.
Okay.
Outwardly, Sheila acted perfectly calm about it. She reportedly brushed their relationship off as a harmless fling. But privately, investigators would later believe that Sheila became consumed by obsession. One of the creepiest details in this case is that Sheila allegedly discussed the entire love triangle constantly with her husband, Paul. Except she would use fake names.
No!
She tells stories about coworkers named Melissa, Jack, and Annalisa, so she kept Annalisa's name. Only later would Paul realize that Melissa was Sheila, Jack was Nelson, and Annalisa was the woman that Sheila hated.
This is diabolical.
I know. It gets even more twisted. Literally, it gets even... I could not wrap my head around the story.
Wow.
According to testimony later on, Sheila became fixated on understanding why Nelson chose Annalisa over her. Why her? What made her special?
Because she's not crazy. What do you mean?
At times, she reportedly talked about even spying on them to Paul, using the excuse that Melissa was behind all of this, and she was just being a good friend and going along to support Melissa. She said Melissa, quote unquote, wanted to stake out their apartment, purchasing lockpicks so that she could break into Annalisa's apartment to look through photographs and personal belongings. Thank goodness she never could figure out how to use the lockpicks, though, so I don't think they ended up following through with that.
Could you imagine if you came home one day and you said that to Nikki?
Absolutely not.
I hope to God.
Nikki would be like, what is actually wrong with you?
I really hope that Nick would put me in a mental institution
where you belong at that point.
Actually, I think we need to talk.
Yeah, are you okay?
There's something not okay.
No, literally. She listened to Jack's voicemails, so apparently she was able to figure out the password to his voicemail. I don't know, I don't know if voicemails still have passwords these days, but remember back in the day you would so she ended up hacking into his voicemail and would listen to his voicemails, and even mentioned bugging Jack's office in an effort to find out information, but I don't think that she was able to do that. Also, side note, she allegedly had hacked into Jack's voicemail and Apparently, she had found out that he was taking a flight from somewhere to somewhere, so she booked the same flight and booked a seat next to him on that flight. That's how far she went. How crazy is that?
For her.
I was going to say, I am scared for Jack. I'm scared for everyone else involved, honestly. She is out of her mind.
Oh, God.
So, yeah. And while Paul likely believed this was simply emotional venting, investigators later believed that Sheila was already fantasizing about murder at this time. The morning of November 8th, 2002 began like any other cold, late autumn morning. Sheila arrived at Purdue Pharma for work at 8:09 a.m., and at 10:53 a.m., Sheila scanned her security badge as she left Purdue Pharma and made the 10-minute drive to 123 Harbor Drive in Stamford, Connecticut. Oh. She walked up to apartment 105 where Annalisa Raymundo lived, wearing gloves and brandishing a 5-inch knife. Investigators believe Annalisa must have gotten a knock on the door and willingly opened because there were no signs of forced entry. And then, suddenly, a brutal, deeply personal attack exploded inside of the apartment. Annalisa was stabbed repeatedly in her Stamford apartment 9 times to be exact, in the chest, neck, and face.
Wow.
She was so violently attacked that one of the stab wounds allegedly went through her chest and straight through, piercing the back of one of Annalisa's lungs. She also suffered blunt force trauma to the head. Blood spread across the apartment while evidence of a violent struggle stretched from room to room. Investigators later described the crime scene as chaotic and intensely personal. And after the murder, Sheila calmly moved into the next phase of her plan. A 911 dispatcher received a strange call from a woman claiming she'd witnessed a man attacking her neighbor at Palmer Landing. The caller sounded nervous, but oddly detached at the same time. She struggled with the address, she wouldn't identify herself, and then she abruptly hung up the phone.
Okay.
Police later traced the call to a nearby payphone located outside of a restaurant about a half a mile away from Annalisa's apartment. At the time, nobody realized they had just listened to the killer's voice. When officers entered Annalisa's apartment, the scene was horrific.
I can only imagine.
Blood across the floors, furniture was overturned, signs of desperation and panic frozen in place. But because of the fake 911 call, investigators initially searched for a male suspect. And with the lack of fingerprints or trace evidence at first, for a while, Sheila's lie worked. Meanwhile, somehow, while police searched for suspects and Annalisa's loved ones grieved, Sheila quietly inserted herself back into Nelson's life.
Did Sheila go back to work after this?
I don't know if she checked back in, honestly, after that, but she went about life as if she knew nothing.
No one noticed the woman that's covered in blood?
No. Mm-mm.
In her lab coat?
Nope. So she, so apparently she took off her coat when she walked into the apartment, and she ended up obviously murdering Annalisa, and she purposely put the coat back on so no one would see her leave the apartment with bloodied clothes. She also went to the bathroom and washed up her face and everything. Sheila quietly inserted herself back into Nelson's life, comforting him, supporting him, helping him process the murder that she committed. And eventually, the two resumed their relationship. But even after Annalisa was gone, Sheila still had another obstacle standing in the way of the life that she wanted. Her husband.
Oh, that's right.
And by March of 2003, investigators believe she had decided Paul Christos needed to die too.
Oh.
It was March 22nd, 2003, a quiet Saturday afternoon in Pleasantville. Outside, suburban life carried on normally. Families wandered through the town running errands, commuters headed home from the city. And inside their Pleasantville home, Paul Christos believed he and his wife were about to reconnect. So I guess in the years leading up, they kind of felt, because it wasn't exciting anymore, they kind of felt like they were starting to drift a little bit.
Okay.
So Paul thought that they were going to reconnect. Sheila suggested they play a game.
Oh no.
Something playful and intimate. One person would wear a blindfold while the other touched them with different objects, and they'd have to guess what they were feeling.
No.
Paul agreed, but because of their busy schedules, they decided to wait until the next day, on Sunday evening, to play. On Sunday, Paul had plans to go into Columbia University in the morning, and then they went to visit Paul's mom for a bit in White Plains before heading back home. Once they got home, Paul walked their 2 dogs, and once Paul came back inside, Sheila excitedly said that she was ready to play the game. By now, it was about 4 p.m. Sheila went first, and Paul put the blindfold on Sheila, placing multiple items like a box, one of their dogs, and a camera on Sheila for her to guess what it was. After guessing some correctly and some incorrectly, Sheila said it was her turn, and they switched places. Sheila placed multiple items on Paul, in which he guessed correctly for the most part. And at one point, Paul later testified he heard Sheila walk downstairs into the kitchen. Then she came back upstairs and softly told him there was one last thing to guess.
I'm scared of her.
A second later, pain exploded through his chest. Then again, Sheila had stabbed him twice with a paring knife. Paul immediately realized this wasn't an accident. He was bleeding heavily, terrified, repeatedly begging Sheila to call 911. But she stalled. Investigators later believe she intentionally delayed getting him medical attention because she hoped that he would die before reaching a hospital.
Oh my God.
And during that delay, instead of calling emergency services, according to the Stanford Advocate and reported phone records, Sheila called Nelson Sessler at the time, inviting him over for dinner later that evening.
That same day.
That same day. That detail remains one of the most chilling moments in this entire case. While her husband's bleeding out, begging for you to call 911, you're calling your boyfriend to invite him over for dinner later that night.
And, like, what is your plan exactly, like, to do with his body? You're going to have dinner around it, or, like, the police are going to be there investigating?
I have no idea. Diabolical. I have no idea what runs through this woman's mind.
And she got away with murdering...
Annalisa, yeah.
Annalisa, yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Eventually, after nearly an hour, Sheila finally agreed to drive Paul to Westchester Medical Center in Valhalla. However, Sheila made it a point to take the scenic route to the hospital, and even at the hospital, she drove away from the main entrance to a secluded parking lot near the behavioral health building. Once in the hospital parking lot, Sheila attacked him again. She stabbed him a third time, this time the blade nicking his heart, filling his lungs with blood. But this time, Paul's adrenaline kicked in, and he managed to throw Sheila off of him and escape from the car after snatching the knife away from Sheila by grabbing the blade with his bare hand.
That's crazy.
He stumbled toward nearby people walking out of the behavioral health building, one being a medical resident, while they watched the horrifying scene unfold. The onlookers rushed to call an ambulance to bring him into the emergency room because they knew he'd never make it by foot. Sheila began screaming to Paul that he needed to explain to everyone that this was all a big misunderstanding, and then proceeded to scream that she was the one being attacked, not Paul.
Oh.
Someone finally called the police, and as staff began working on Paul in the parking lot while they waited for the ambulance to reach them, Sheila began to run off. However, police caught up to her and detained her. And in that moment, Sheila's carefully controlled double life began collapsing in real time. Paul survived following emergency open heart surgery. Barely, but he survived. The stab wound outside Westchester Medical Center had come dangerously close to killing him. And as investigators began digging deeper into Sheila's life, the connections between the cases appeared quickly. Detectives discovered Sheila had called Nelson between stabbing attacks. That immediately raised alarms. Then investigators learned Nelson's girlfriend had recently been murdered in Stamford. And suddenly, the attempted murder in Westchester County became linked to a homicide investigation in Connecticut. When detectives replayed the mysterious 911 call from Annalisa's murder, one investigator immediately recognized the voice, and it sounded exactly like Sheila. At that point, investigators essentially began rebuilding Sheila's entire life from scratch, and piece by piece, her carefully constructed world unraveled. The secret affairs, the fake identities, the elaborate lies, the manipulation, and finally, DNA evidence. A tiny drop of blood investigators recovered near Annalisa's bathroom sink eventually matched Sheila. So I think she nicked herself in the attack.
Wow.
In 2004, Sheila was convicted in New York for attempting to murder Paul Christos. She received the maximum sentence of 25 years and was sent to Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for Women in Bedford. But Connecticut investigators still weren't finished with her.
Thank God.
Because while Sheila sat behind bars at Bedford Hills, detectives continued quietly building their murder case surrounding Annalisa Raymundo's death. And eventually, Sheila was formally charged with murder. The prosecution's case centered around two devastating pieces of evidence: her DNA inside the apartment and the fake 911 call. The very call Sheila believed would protect her ultimately became one of the strongest pieces of evidence against her. Jurors listened closely to the recording. The hesitation, the nervous tone, the fabricated story about a mysterious male attacker, and when paired with the DNA evidence left behind at the scene, prosecutors painted the picture of a woman who believed she was smart enough to manipulate everyone around her. A woman who almost got away with murder.
Wow.
Eventually, the jury agreed. Sheila was convicted of murdering Annalisa Raymundo and sentenced to an additional 50 years in prison. After completing her sentence in New York at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for Women, she would later be transferred to Connecticut to begin serving the next sentence. And just like that, the carefully constructed life Sheila spent years building completely collapsed.